it's a matter of that's your locking the loose apart. So you're seeing now developments, yes, there are, so that's locked together, and then you'll have long pieces as well, so you do a long section and you can move it up super fast. There's also, in Australia, they're working at, you put up your shuttering and then a delivery system through a pipe, much like you can take concrete, and then it drops down, you don't need a tank. So just trying to speed it up a little bit, but that's in areas where they don't have labor. You know, in Australia, the minimum wage is $25 to $30 an hour. You know, so we need people to work, and this, you know, it's a low-tech, easy for women in construction also to be involved, because it's lightweight. It's not big, heavy bricks or blocks. It's much better, I'd say, aimed at the more self-build or, you know, getting people to actually involved in their buildings. So just looking at the wood detailing. And that's a side angle of the original hemp house, of my house. And what we did, this angle gives it quite a different feel, but for the majority of the house we designed it pretty straightforward. You know, it looks like a normal house inside. On the front it looks pretty square. Here you can see we've done, this is my shower that comes off the outside, so it's cantilevered. So you can stand in the shower and look out the window at the valley, which is really cool. But we wanted to also show that you don't have to live in a dome or in a teepee or in something that's very different to be sustainable. Same with our clothing. You can see we don't have big leaves on our shirts. We don't have too much, you know, reggae colors or whatever. It's, you know, look pretty normal, but just by changing the materials that I'm wearing, it makes a huge difference. We also did a flat planted roof on the top, and that's also replacing a lot of your plant matter that you disturbed. You're now lifting it up. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously in the cities more people are doing that, but it also adds a layer of insulation in the roof, so it's cooler in the summer and also has a layer of insulation for winter. That's just it from the front, so nicely nestled in nature. Yeah, you can see mixing there, so basically the lime slurry would be put in there, and then we'd shovel in some of the hemp until, they call it wheat mix consistency. It's not wet, it's not like you're casting cement. You can pick up the ball of hempcrete, it doesn't run through your fingers, but it's not super dry. It needs to be, obviously you can make a ball out of it. There you can just see that's the shuttering and the wood frame. So it's a light wood frame. You don't need, you know, it's not a big solid frame. This is a light material. That's just doing the shuttering. Gets a bit tricky right at the top to get in there, but you can also plaster it in. This is another building we did in Constantia on a farm. It was a garage and a generator shed. The hospital is just over there, so using now the sound insulation of the hemp for a big generator that ran the farm, and that's to, you know, not obviously keep the patients awake, and that's a whole other side of the insulation for the sound as well. So hopefully one day we'll have a musician who, I've always thought I'd like to work with that, a musician who can do a sound studio out of hemp and solar powered. So anyone else for that needs me. And it's just looking at a little, what we call a truth window. So here are the layers, that's the inside of the wall. And then on the outside you get a layer of hemp plaster, much like that. And that's hemp, lime, and sand. In the middle, on the actual hempcrete, it's about 4 parts hemp to 1 part lime to 1 part water. And then on the outside you reduce the amount of hemp to about 2 to 3 parts hemp, more lime, and more sand. And that creates a crust. So that on the inside is fairly soft, but you know, if you had to bash it, you could take something out of it, or and it's quite rough, you know, quite rough as well. And a lot of people like that rough finish. And then, but you can add a plaster layer. On the outside, you do a lime render. You don't want to use too much hemp on the outside lime plaster because it's so moisture absorbent. So if it gets water against it, it will pull that into the wall. So you seal it with a lime render coat, which is just your lime and sand layer. think we might.
So does that mean your lime render is like your plaster and then you paint on top of that?
Yeah, then you do a lime paint. So the aim is not to do anything that's going to seal it. And that's actually how it's really hemp building reclaimed its place in France. France was the one country in the West who told the Americans to stop off when they said we must ban this plant. Because they have been using it forever and they carried on growing it, they knew it was of value. And because of that, what happened, you got all the old French buildings, I think there'll be a photo. That were all made with lime originally, and kind of that style, you would have seen that style around Europe. And people were fixing that with cement. So they'd get a few cracks or whatever in the walls, and they'd go and put some cement over the lime. And what they didn't realize is they're killing the wall. So the cement would eventually fall off and there would be nothing left of the wall behind because it didn't breathe. It didn't have that moisture going in and out. It was just completely over dry. And then they realized, okay, they did the analysis of what the wall was originally made of, and it was cellulose and lime. And they had a whole lot of hemp around because they had a hemp fiber industry. And that's where the French, isochambre, it's called hemp cement. And they've really pioneered the hemp building system. Now the new products that are coming out now, this is not a brick, this is actually a part of a board. This is coming out of Italy. It comes as a big long sheet, about 2.4 by 1.2. And this is made with hemp, magnesium and soya binder. So it's completely eco, and you'll see this is very light. That can be your internal drywalls, it can be your ceiling boards. It's there's a huge factory that makes it. It just gets a compressed board.
They're available in South Africa?
Not yet. We're looking at it, but we'd much rather set up the factory and do it here than bring boards in. But yeah, so the million-dollar question is when are we going to be able to do all of this? So for now, we can build for. I mean, what Jill's house worked out at about 10,000 a square. Yeah?
No, a little bit more. It was probably about 14.
But with this, was that with solar and all of that?
No, the solar added on a little bit in the end.
So that's for obviously a small house, not real much economies of scale, and really
and distance as well.
Everything custom, windows, doors, the works. At the moment, most normal houses. So what's the average for a house of that quality going for?
Yeah, no, actually pretty much around that price.
Yeah.
You know, even a conventional build, it's like 15 to 20 now.
Yeah. So we're in ballpark even with imported hemp. But if we pay, again, we pay around R4.50 a kilo for this in Europe. By the time we land it here, it costs us 12 Rand a kilo, and we're selling it for about 15 Rand a kilo. We have to put something on. But it's not really worth it for us. We're keeping this thing ticking over. We're making sure we do 1 or 2 projects to keep the interest going. But when we have it here, those prices, we will be able to beat the regular prices, especially if this concept that people get of the difference between price and cost. The price even of, there's a great poster I often reference of a farmer standing in front of his field, organic farmer, saying, well, if you think organic food's expensive, have you priced cancer recently? So with all of these things, everyone, the same thing with the double glazing in my house. It's beautiful, state-of-the-art performance double glazing. It does come from Germany. There was no one doing double glazing when we did it here. And the guy also said to me, he gave me a great analogy. He said, people ask me how much do my windows compare to normal windows. He said, well, that's like walking into a Mercedes-Benz dealership and saying, how much is your car compared to a Volkswagen? Like these are performance materials. They have so much added benefit that you cannot compare them on your cost alone or your price alone. You definitely can compare them on cost, and nature will always win. The natural materials will always win when those costs of externalities are included in the price. We truly had to include the cost of carbon from bricks and cement, or the cost of pollution from plastic. We would see those products that we currently see as cheap are not so cheap. They're costing us a hell of a lot. So, we see a huge future. I'm following what's happening. They're now doing a lot of buildings in the States. Europe has got a couple of thousand buildings now. Marks and Spencer's built their biggest shop ever using hempcrete. The museum, the Natural Science Museum, just built a huge building to store all their old parchments and leather and everything in because of this moisture regulation of the hemp. Wine Society of the UK has built their warehouse with it. And the demand is growing, the awareness is growing, but what isn't growing is hemp in South Africa. So we have been told that this is a year that they will publish, they have to publish guidelines, much like they did for the medicinal side. Our biggest gripe with them is that we've been waiting for guidelines for hemp for 20 years. Medicinal, they got the guidelines out in a year and a half. And that's for THC. And we're still speaking, a lot of the varieties that give you the best fiber, that give you the biggest seeds and the best oily seeds, do not have THC in. They are non-psychoactive varieties of cannabis. So it should be a lot easier to control. The one point that they've got, which I do understand, is the scale of the hemp. You know, it's not for medicinal, they can go and inspect a facility that's, you know, like a couple of 100 square meters, but they were just worried putting it all over the Eastern Cape or into the Free State or wherever, that the scale of it is so much harder to manage. But they're not looking at it from where we're looking at it from. The view of just how many jobs, just how many houses, so many healthy people we could create with this. They're looking at it from a control angle. It's how do we control this?
What are they worried about?
So they're worried about this one chemical molecule called tetrahydrocannabinol that apparently can, yeah, that's it. There's one molecule that some people, you know, it's as crazy as analogies, like mushrooms. Yeah, there are lots of mushrooms that make you high and lots of mushrooms that kill you, but you can still have mushrooms with your breakfast tomorrow morning. Yeah, and or corn. Just because some people make moonshine liquor out of corn and that makes you blind and horribly drunk and they don't allow you to make that at home, they don't ban the whole corn plant. So what we've seen here is this throwing out, you know,